What's up? It's Jeremy Picker from Amber Creative.
This is Deanna with In the Zone Inc. and Print Girl Mafia.
This is Ray Weiss with Printing the Night of the Lion.
You're listening to the Two Regular Guys podcast.
Hosted by Terry Combs RG, Regular Guy, and Aaron Montgomery.
The place to be for industry news.
The best dad jokes on earth, along with relevant topics to apparel decorators.
Fashion to the people.
All right, welcome into the show. It is Friday, April 18th, 2025. I'm Terry Combs. You can find me at terrycombs.com.
And I'm Erich Montgomery from our Success Group and also now American Print and Supply. And we get to welcome back in. Terry, I don't think any of the regulators are surprised one bit, but somehow we managed to take one show and turn it into three. So today, fingers crossed, the conclusion of our discussion on the topic that, obviously, this is a topic that we're passionate about, so we could talk about this pretty much forever. The education, right? What that means. Today, we really want to kind of maybe this is the day that we dust off the crystal balls, Terry, and we say, hey, what's it going to look like? Right. If it were me type thing. And you actually posed a really great question that we'll get into. So I'm getting already into the show because I'm so excited about it, but really good stuff today, Terry. So I'm looking forward. We'll get Erich back in here in just a little bit.
All right. Stay till the very end, everyone. I'm going to be bringing the secret sauce today. It's another screen printing back to basics, how to properly use a flash cure unit. It's more than just plugging it in, Aaron.
What? Huh. Man, yeah. Okay. Well, I better pay attention then. I thought I was just plugging it in. I'm like, you're already giving away the secret sauce, Terry, but no. All right. Well, I can't wait to hear that and learn. And always great stuff, Terry. I think if you are an active decorator out there, you need to go to our YouTube channel and grab that secret sauce channel. And we clip them out every time. And what a great way to just start the conversation inside of your business, right? Okay. You are so-and-so Mr. Salesperson. Do you know how to properly use the flash cure unit? Can you talk more intelligently to the customers, right? So really good stuff there, Terry. I'm looking forward to it. The other thing that I'm looking forward to here is we get to welcome back Cassie Green from the Apparelist today. And she's got some news to share with us. Coming from snowy Colorado, actually, we heard. I was like, "What day today is today?" So, anyhow, she's keeping warm. She's ready to go. Terry, whenever, yeah, exactly. Whenever you're ready, Terry, you ready to bring Cassie in here?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hear the news.
Hey everybody, yes, snowing here in Colorado, and honestly, this isn't even the latest snow we've ever gotten. Like the last couple of years, we've gotten snow in late May, so I'm not even going to hold my breath. It is what it is. Just cover my flowers and move on. But that's not what we're here for. We're here for headlines today. So first headline I have to share with all of the regulators, Bella Canvas and Stakes Manufacturing form strategic partnership. So Bella Canvas and Stakes Manufacturing announced a strategic partnership to support global brands and major retailers in reshaping their supply chains through developing and offering capabilities in both nearshore and fully made in the USA, printed in the USA models. So of course, Bella Canvas being on the blanks manufacturing side and Stakes Manufacturing being on the decorating side. The companies say that together, they will offer end-to-end domestic and nearshore solutions that prioritize speed, quality, sustainability, cost efficiency, and job creation. So you can click on that news link if you want to learn more details about their partnership. Second headline that I have for everybody this morning, Sales Inc. unveils CRM built exclusively for print shops. Sales Inc. announces the upcoming launch of a CRM built specifically for decorators. Designed from the ground up for shops, this CRM eliminates the patchwork of spreadsheets and manual follow-ups that plague many shop owners today, according to a press release. So Kevin Baumgart, who is the founder of Sales Inc., says that their CRM has been carefully tailored to the workflows, client cycles, and team dynamics of print and promo businesses. So any of you who have met Kevin know that he has worked extensively in our industry for a long time. There's a lot of experience there, and he has put a lot of thought into something specifically for our industry. So be sure to check that out. Final headline I have for everybody today: the effects of tariffs on the printing industry, a look at the apparel decorating community. So a while back, Apparelist and Printing United Alliance launched a survey to kind of get a gauge on these initial impacts that people are feeling from the tariffs. So we did release our first round of data, which of course this is an ongoing thing, so keep that in mind. But diving into the details of this specific round, more than 90% of the participants in the Printing United Alliance Effects of Tariffs on the Printing Industry survey expect the recent increases to affect their business. There are strong opinions on both the positive side and the negative side, as well as broad agreement that it is too early to know what the long-term effects will be for either our industry or the American economy. So a total of 246 companies have completed the Alliance survey at the time of publishing, with 113 apparel decorators specifically participating in the survey. 93% of the apparel decorators that participated said the expected response to the tariffs will be to increase prices. So I just encourage anybody to head on over to that link. The survey is still open. We are still collecting data. We will continue to collect data. It's something obviously that's a hot topic in the industry. So guys, that's everything I have for you this week.
All right. Well, thanks to Cassie for sharing the news and getting all of those topics covered. And I love how they just keep their finger on the pulse and are continuing to talk about what matters, Terry. So what stood out for you in there?
Well, it's I think the first Bella Canvas and Steaks, because just yesterday, one of the sales reps at Equipment Zone called me and said, "Hey, one of my customers is asking who those guys were that were on your show that were that employ people on the spectrum," and how odd that's popping up in the news as well. So
Yeah. Yep.
but I've had multiple people reach out and say, "Hey, how can I get in touch with those guys at Steaks, and how can I get in touch with those guys at Spectrum?" So
Yeah.
they do a lot of cool stuff, and I said, "Listen, all these guys are more than happy to talk to you about how to set something like this up."
Yeah. Yep, definitely. And Jed actually reached out to us and said, "Hey, can you share about this?" And I said, "Well, we actually have a better person to share about this." And so I asked Cassie, and she was obviously they were already doing it. So appreciate Cassie talking about that. I think that's a really cool partnership. And then I didn't know about the CRM either. So this again, Terry, we continue to say this. We'll continue to say this. I think this is such an amazing opportunity for all the listeners to, so make sure that you guys are going and signing up for their newsletters, following, right? We get this news every week from these outlets, but I still read all the emails, dig in. They do such a great job. We're so fortunate to have an industry that's covered so well by so many great people. So.
Exactly right.
Yeah. All right. Well, Terry, I put a little private chat to you guys that I had just read the dad joke for the day, and I was very impressed. You're so good at being like on topic, on target for the season. So, are you ready to deliver the dad joke?
I'm ready. Let's do it. So, Aaron, what's the Easter Bunny's favorite music?
I just don't know, Terry.
It's hip hop. Little holiday humor for my peeps.
Oh my God, you had a bonus one. Oh no. Okay, well, we forgot to get Eric in here before so they could see it, because this was excessive. Let's bring Eric in here though, but if you don't mind, Eric, pushing your own button, making the own call.
Yeah.
Can you react to said dad joke?
I literally, it's too bad you didn't have me on screen, because I face palmed and I wasn't trying to be overreacting. The peeps thing actually hit me upside of the head like a brick. That was harsh, man.
And
I was not ready. I was not prepared.
Peeps, so I will fight you on this. The best holiday candy of any of the holiday candies are Peeps.
I'll say this. My wife brought me one time, I guess her family, instead of Peeps, did the chocolate-covered marshmallow Easter egg. in the crate. If you haven't seen that, plain, just dark chocolate on a marshmallow.
Not bad.
Not
But
bad.
the original Peeps too, not the bunny shaped ones or anything like that. The original
Oh,
yellow
the little rabbit
Peeps.
ones, yeah.
And none of the weird flavors. Thank you.
Nope. Yeah,
I like the molded milk ball eggs for Easter.
those are
the
good
robin
too.
eggs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get everybody on a sugar high here, Terry, can you take care of a little housekeeping for us before we dive into our topic?
Exactly. Before we dive in, we want to thank everybody for checking out the Two Regular Guys podcast. We need your voices still. We would love to have the regulators participate in our show intros. We try to change them up all the time. Go to osg.link/intro, read a few sentences, be a part of every show. We are always looking for new guests. So if you or anyone you know would like to join us, go to calendly.com/2, the number 2, regular guys to book a future episode, or email us at info@tworegularguys.com with your show ideas. If you are listening to the podcast version of the show, we would appreciate you sharing the Two Regular Guys podcast with all of your industry friends so they can become regulators too. We would appreciate you giving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, wherever you do your podcast listening, we are there, and we would love to have a review from you. And if you're watching us live right now, please join in with your comments and your questions, and tell us how you in your shop do your education, do your training as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good call. Speaking of the regulators here, Craig, I don't know. I'm not sure about this one. His candy of choice is the black jelly beans.
Gross.
Wow. I'm with you. No, black
I think
licorice.
there's the bag just as fillers, just to make the bag heavier.
Oh yeah. Even worse, these spiced jelly beans. I am a spice drop, spice jelly bean guy. I will have clove. Don't ask me why. Okay, Cassie disagrees. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Cassie.
All right.
Bring some.
No voice of sanity.
It's good to be an outcast. It's okay. All right.
I'm aware.
Love it. Kingsbury Craft saying good morning earlier too, by the way. So thank you for jumping in, tuning in, and Craig from Collegiate Press Wide Format had said good morning from sunny Boston. Nice and sunny over there. Awesome. Okay, gentlemen. Oh, thank you, Chuck. Yes, I missed that and all the other things. Chuck, good morning to you, sir. Are you guys ready to dive into this? I feel like we have to, otherwise we're going to end up with a fourth show, and we actually have guests lined up, so a fourth show might not be possible soon.
We're against a hard break now.
We got to get real about this. But Terry, you posed a really great question last week, and as you mentioned already, we'd love to hear from the regulators that are tuned in live right now. What does training look like for you in your business? But the question that you had, Terry, was what would training look like if you were running a production shop today? So that's for me, Eric, and you, Terry.
Yeah.
So Terry, since you asked the question, I'm going to throw it to you first. What if you were running a production shop today? What would training look like in your production shop?
Absolutely. First is the onboarding. New hires. You have to make sure that when that new hire gets there, they're not in the rush of people at the time clock and kind of looking around going, well, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to go or who I'm supposed to meet. So have the new hire come early and meet them there before the chaos starts, and be prepared for them. And, I've seen too many times where somebody is new hired and say, okay, well, just wait over here and we need to get the day started. And then I'll come back over here and get you. Have their workspace prepared. If they're in an office, have their desk prepared. If they're working out on the production floor, have their workspace ready. Lay out for them what the training process is going to be. Chances are with me, it's probably going to be some observation and then slowly get involved in hands-on work on the production floor or wherever you're actually doing the work, but starting with a little observation. And tell them right up front what the expectations of the job are. It's so funny. Hey, I'm going to repeat a story. I was
You got me
like a
again.
bell or a light or something.
Oh,
Gosh.
we do need the bell. Yeah, you make everybody salivate on command, right?
Yeah.
Pavlovian response every time you start a story.
Here we go.
Go. There's Terry ringing the doorbell with a repeat story. But when I went to run a production shop on the East Coast, and the first day the owner said, "Oh, and by the way, you're going to have to let this guy go," and I'm like, "Well, why?" And well, he's just not meeting my expectations. Does he know that? Well, he should. Well, how about this? How about if I tell him what your expectations are after you tell me what your expectations are, and I have a conversation with him, and he had no idea that he was not doing what the owner wanted him to do because nobody ever told him. It was just assumed that he should know what the owner wanted him to do. So, needless to say, I did not fire that guy, and he was still there when I left. So,
Terry, real quick on that. I think I love that story. Again, we make fun of the fact that you're telling the story again, but I do love that story because I think there is this mindset, especially if you're a business owner, that people should just figure it out, right? I'm giving them money, so they should figure out what the expectations are and just do a good job. And you've said this over and over again, Terry. People want to do a good job, but
Yes.
when they don't know what that job is, and so really it's your responsibility as a business owner is to really lay out that expectations. It's not to do the work. It's not to, kind of lead by example. Even it's to lay out expectations. It's to have that big picture, to share the vision. And then the people that work for you are supposed to implement that vision. Right. So I just wanted to kind of tag on to that. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not done very often in a business where you lay out specifically what the expectations are. So, one of the reasons why is because that means an owner has to sit down and figure out what those expectations are, rather than just get stuff out the door. It's got to be. You have to lay it out specifically, and it's good for you as an owner, and it's good for the employees as well. So. Yeah. After we onboard the person, get them trained up and ready to take on the world, we're going to do ongoing training. And this is my mantra is 52-15 training. Yeah. Every Monday morning for 15 minutes, we train on one subject. It's squeegees. Let me tell you about the different squeegees and why there are different squeegees and what you use a soft squeegee for and a medium squeegee for and a hard squeegee for. I can do that training, or maybe today we're in the screen room and everybody's going to see how screens are coated and dried and exposed. And so whoever's in charge of that department could do that training that week. And, after you build this library of training, and not really a library, but it's actually hands-on, then it's move forward and repeat. It's April. Well, April 1st is the week that we are going to go to the screen room and we're going to expose and wash out screens, and everybody's going to see how that's done. And again, I am huge. Tell everybody everything there is to know about this job, and no, they're probably not very likely going to go out and compete with you or take your secrets of coding a screen to some competitor. If you are investing in your employees with ongoing training, they want to work for you. They want to be in your facility. They want to be a part of this company. I have rarely had employees leave to go somewhere else. They leave because, well, my spouse got a job in Albuquerque and looking for a house, by the way, Eric. And leave for some reason like that, or I've decided to go back to school or something like that. But if you invest in employees with training, they want to work with you. And the last point is cross training. And I will do sessions where See, I'm a four day work week guy. I'm a Monday through Thursday 10-hour work days because on Friday I can do a cross training session and people don't mind coming in on a Friday. And by doing this cross training, and by the way, if you have to run overtime, it's way easier to run overtime on a Friday than it is a Saturday or a Sunday because chances are that person's kind of hanging out at home by themselves anyway because they're married or have a spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. They're probably at work. So, but cross training, meaning uh, everybody in the art department can come out and actually learn to pull or push a squeegee and print a shirt. And I will have pay rate increases based on how many areas you are cross trained in. And by cross trained, I mean actually able to do that job.
Mhm.
And you know, when somebody does leave, you're never in a pinch. You never want to be in a position where you say, "Gosh, if Susie leaves, who's going to take care of shipping?" I mean, nobody else knows how to do it.
Yeah.
Well, in my shop, everybody else knows how to do it. The art director knows how to ship because we had a training session on shipping. So that's my. I'll see now. Look, we've already gone over. This is going to be a two show.
No, it's not.
No.
Absolutely not.
We'll keep it tight.
No,
All
so
right. Well, those are my my training points.
that's awesome. Those are some good things there. And again, you guys that are listening in here right now, we want to hear from you. So start typing, get into the comments there. You know, how is your training set up? What do you do for growth? What's that look like for you? But Erich, posing that same question to you, if you were to be running an active production shop today, what would training look like in your shop?
The thing is, we're going to hear a lot of greatest hits because Terry and I have a lot of agreement about production training. And I think honestly, that's not too surprising. I mean, because the first thing I have, I called it disclosure, but it's expectations. It's the biggest thing ever is to let people know ahead of time what you expect them to do. The only thing that might be a little different is I would probably give them, especially if I was hiring for something that's particularly technical, I'm going to let them know, hey, I'm not expecting you week one to be the best you're ever going to get at this technical thing.
Yeah.
What I'm expecting you to do is this, and I'm going to have probably some goalposts. So I'm going to say, hey, at the end of this week, here are the basic standard procedures I want you to be able to do. And we're going to work on that. And hey, we're going to revisit that. And so the second part of that is standard operating procedures. I'm going to teach you on a way that we do this. And frankly, the funny thing is sometimes this is a really good time to reinforce with your own existing staff that we need to do things in a way that is standardized and works every time. So you may also contact your staff, say, hey, since the last time we were training, what do you think we should change? What's the stuff that you guys do differently? Is there something new going on? So you can refresh that. Yeah. And then when you teach and you train on these standard procedures that are going to be, you know, what you do every single day. But as much as I do, and I'm going to talk about this in a second, think that there should be some autonomy in the way people handle tasks, and I'll explain what I mean with that. I do think that you should be able to kind of slot people in. If you've got two operators, it shouldn't be where everybody's dreading the day that whoever is on the machine or that they're taking over some task because it makes their life harder. And we're going to talk about that again, too, what you need to do as far as your part as a link in the chain. So for that kind of training for if I were to take this on in a live shop, it would be to define our tasks, very, very explicitly define what each task is and what needs to get done. We have direct instruction with the experienced staff. So we have staff taking the main role of instruction, unless, of course, if you're a solopreneur bringing somebody on, obviously that's you. But if otherwise you have the staff member who's most closely related to them directly involved, it's also kind of team building as well. Observed practice. So once they've gotten the direct instruction, they've watched the task happen with somebody who knows how to do the task. Then that person still one-to-one, not moving off of our person. So the thing that I don't like is sometimes people say, oh, I did train them. And then we threw them to the wolves and saw what happened at the end of the day. And I'm like, well, okay, maybe your first shot out of the gate, you should have somebody standing with them literally step for step, so that you get what I think is the most important about that part of that task, which is direct and immediate feedback. And that includes just confirmation, because you have no idea how many times, and I've done this myself, having kind of taught myself most of what I knew early on. you don't have any direct feedback. You don't have confirmation you're doing something right. You only have confirmation when something's going wrong. You do need kind of like the pat on the back, yeah, that's going right. Yes, that's what we expect. I know it seems to us who are experienced like that's overkill, but it's not. If somebody's brand new, you just got to have that beginner mindset and remember yourself as a brand new decorator and be like, wouldn't it have been great if somebody just said, yep, that's right. Keep on going. Yep, that's right. Your first time out of the gate, somebody should really be one-on-one. And then, like I said, then we get into more continuing stuff. And that's where I want to develop, and this is me getting a little further afield. I want to develop some intrinsic motivation out of people who I bring in, meaning I want them to be motivated on their own to continue working and getting better at the job. For that, I think you need the three things I talk about a lot: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Meaning a little bit of freedom to kind of set some of this up. They can do their standing procedures, but we don't manage every little thing to the point of necessarily being like, oh, that's the wrong pencil you're using. We kind of let them, as they start to develop a little bit of that skill, you set out the task, you tell them what you expect, and then step back for a minute. Let them understand that you're going to let them solve problems unless something is really critical. You let them do a little bit of that because otherwise people do feel like they are just a cog. You want to let that happen. Path to mastery, you want to let them know that there are stages to this and you're going to get better, and you want to help them do that. So you're going to provide ongoing education, very much with Terry on that. Mm-hmm. And then purpose, I want to tie them into what the company is trying to do. And it's not just make money. It's company goals. Hopefully you may have some external goals, maybe in your community, maybe with the people, even if it's just the people in the shop saying, hey, as a goal, I want you to get to this point in your career. If you want to do that, jump along with me and we'll have that as part of the purpose. But I like an overarching purpose is better. If it is get the shop really great at something, that's fantastic. That's wonderful. If it's chasing down an interest that they have in decoration, you want to try and foster something about that. You have to have something bigger than get the work done at the end of the day if you want them to keep being motivated themselves. So I'm going to try and foster that pretty soon into the training. And I know it sounds crazy to think about that when you first start, but I think it's a company culture kind of thing. And along with Terry's 5215 idea, I really like the idea, and percentage wise, maybe not 10, but 10% time, something that Google used to do. I don't know if they're still doing it now, but they would give people 10% of their week to do their own development and practice, or to institute new things or learn things they want to, and give them the resources to do that. If you've got an embroiderer who wants to learn how to digitize and you have open time on a machine, foster that. Let them learn that. If they want to learn how to do a new technique, and you can foster that. You have materials that's not a massive cost. And even if it is a little bit of a cost, if you've got somebody in your production line or in your business that has something they want to learn to do that will benefit the business, give them a little bit of that time, yes, on the clock, to get that done, because ultimately you're going to reap those benefits. Even if somebody eventually trains and gets better and leaves, it's going to contribute to the corporate culture. It's going to increase what you have as capabilities and honestly make you look better. So I think 10% time, something like that is good. Plus we all do a really cool thing. Everybody who's ever been on a line wants to make their shirt, wants to make something for their friends, wants to do something. Instead of having them, frankly, and I've been in production a long time, steal the time off the production line anyway, which they'll do if you're not watching. Foster that time and then let them know put boundaries on it. If they're going to run a side business off of your line, no. If they're going to make a cool thing, help them make the cool thing. Other than that, last kind of stuff, we talk about cross training. Terry was 100% with Terry. What I like though is to incorporate this concept of like a full chain workflow awareness. I know, big words for something very small. They should know how a job moves through the entire company, from sales all the way out to when it's delivered. And that doesn't mean they necessarily have to be completely cross-trained at every section. You can have sections where people are not, like, we're not expecting the person off the line necessarily to jump into sales. That might not be a thing we're going to do. However, should they see a salesperson take an order? Sure, they should. Should they see somebody do marketing? Should they see somebody also on the other end? Should we see collections? Should we understand what happens? Yes. And especially as it comes to information that's being passed along, everyone should know what information the next stage of the process needs, and to deliver their part, their job, full and complete with everything that the next person down the chain needs. And that, I think, is helped a lot by knowing that. awareness. And then ultimately, just as a last point to this, I really think you have to have feedback also back from your new employee at all times. Ask them questions, ask for confirmation. They're not going to necessarily feel comfortable to offer this early on. If you want to get that kind of relationship with your employees where they tell you when something's wrong instead of trying to shove it under the fifth shirt in the stack, you're going to want to let them know it's okay to talk, and you're going to want to ask them for their opinions a lot. And certainly just let them know, hey, especially with the training, I'm like, are you getting this? And I'm like, I'm not going to punish you if didn't get what we just taught you. What are the parts you're sticking on? What's going on there? Or if they flatly go, I don't know why we do this, discuss it. Stop and tell them, because the things that people don't believe are important, if you can't articulate why they're important, number one, you might find out they're not important. Number two, if they are important, you need to make that clear, because otherwise that's the first stuff they'll stop doing when they're not in training. So just make sure you get that feedback at all stages. That's how I would take it. Anyway.
There you go. Love it. Good stuff.
Right.
And like you said, lots of, I think you're going to see throughout carryover. I mean, all good stuff here. But still, I was kind of like looking and I like went out to YouTube and went over to Facebook. I'm like, is this thing on? Right. So we want to hear from you guys. Hi, Doug. I see that you're joining us here, but how is your training set up? Like, what do you do for growth? And back to this original question, we want you guys to answer this question too. And now for you, it's not an if, right? Because most of you are running a production shop today, but maybe you're not. What would training look like if you were running a production shop today? And I guess my take on this, you guys, is very similar, right? Like I am right there with Erich there, that everything that Terry said, all the things that Erich added into that, I'm just say ditto, right? I tend to look at my things through the lens of a solopreneur or a small shop, right? That doesn't necessarily have employees, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes thinking about employees is actually a little bit difficult for me. But I think this is equally, if not more important for the solopreneur to really focus on just educating yourself and setting that up. And that 10% time you talked about, Erich, like you should do that yourself. Like, okay, I've got this business to run. Do you ever give yourself just a moment to go, let me go play, let me go explore, let me go try something new, let me master a technique, right? We try to wear all the hats and we do everything. So for me, you guys, it always starts, and you guys know this, it always comes back to starting with our reason, our why. And my belief is that is our strengths, values, and passions. So I talk a lot about SVP, strengths, values, and passions. And I truly believe that ties everything together inside of our business. In fact, over the last, let's say 12, 13 weeks on my Small Business Saturdays, we've been starting with the SVPs, talking a lot about that about 10 plus weeks ago. And now this Saturday, we'll be wrapping up the series on how do we take our SVPs and then tie it into every section of our business, what I call the fundamental formula. So that's where training starts with me, is just really taking that time to understand that. And then how do we make decisions based on that, right? Because we look at a lot of things and we go, okay, I should do it this way because they're doing it that way. And my question is always like, is that true? Right? That doesn't match who you are. Like if I were to try to get Terry to do something outside of his strengths, values, or passions, that's going to be an uphill battle, right? But we do that to ourselves all the time. We try to match and emulate somebody else. So I think, even training, like, okay, for somebody, it might be actual hands-on that they need, but other people do want to be kind of left alone. Let me watch the video. Let me try it on my own. Give me the space to try it. So I think the number one thing I do, and the plan as I work with different people inside of our success group and stuff like that, is we always start with just taking a little bit of an assessment. So we have the language to understand our strengths. I'm going to hit buttons for 1 second, Erich, because I didn't share this with you in advance. Maybe you already grabbed it, but I will put it in the chat. There is it's called the VIA Character Strengths Assessment. And there you go. Eric did have it for me there. And so if you want to go check that out, you can take it and it'll give you your character strengths. Really cool stuff. I have yet to run across somebody that's taken it and gone, no, that's not me. They always go, yeah, that's exactly me. I just never knew what language I put to that. Right. And so I think it starts there. And then customizing our training for those learning strengths, right? What are those strengths? How do we learn? It's not going to say you learn like this, but what it's going to say is this is who you are. And so now you can say, okay, what's going to be best for me? For example, in our Facebook group, the Entrepreneur Success Hub, we were talking about setting up systems to manage things. And Craig, actually, who's listening in here, put a picture of all the different apps on his phone that he's got that could potentially help him manage his systems. And I asked him, I said, take this survey. Let's see what might look right. And try to compare those two things. So that's where I would start. I wholeheartedly agree with what Terry had shared earlier. When you're talking about maybe like a 52-15 program or whatever that is, when you're doing training inside of your shop, I have found the best way for people to learn and master skills is to ask them to train somebody else on it. Right. I'm falling into Terry's trap here of telling the same story over and over again. So you could probably ring the bell for me here, but like you guys know that our regular listeners, I have a deep love for volleyball, and what allowed me to become the best volleyball player I could become was to actually learn how to teach somebody else how to do it. Because it made me think about the steps, the processes and whatnot. So having staff, having other people lead the training, I think is a great idea. And then the last part for me is I say that we also need to understand that our focus doesn't need to be on more information, more stuff, and instead on implementation, right? So we get inspired by a lot of good ideas, but how many of them do we actually put into practice, right? You can come and watch every week of Two Regular Guys and have some sort of a golden nugget that you can take away and use in your business. But it's only valuable if you actually use it in your business. I remember a time for me where I was really in this whole growth kick, right? When I first started our success group, and I'd made this goal that I was going to read, X number of books a year. And I did that. And I was like, why did I not get anywhere? I read all these books and what the heck, but my assumption, I guess, was that just because I read it, that the osmosis would happen. And so when I changed that to, I'm not going to read a ton of books, I'm going to pick 2 good ones, and I'm going to really focus on implementing those 2 each year. That's where real growth started happening. And so the same thing with training, right? The training's only as good as what you use it for. And so that would be the other part, is like really understanding what my strategy is going to be to implement this information, this growth, this learning, and not just take it in, not just consume it. I think we're in a world today where our eyeballs are the currency, right? And so we've gotten used to just consuming as much as we can. And we kind of become these robots of like just trying to copy everybody else. We need to break that zombie hold and say, how can I implement this? How can I make this my own? How can I make it custom to me so that it becomes an actual value, not just somebody getting an ad click, right? So, yeah.
Aaron, when you say about having the staff do the training, I think that a lot of folks don't do training because they don't know where to start. But having staff do that, once you do a couple of trainings, then it gets to be way easier. It's not this giant mountain you have to climb, that it's just a little hill that you have to go up. And something, if I could jump back to something, Eric, that you said about an employee saying, but I don't know why we do this. That is really, really important, all this, because, it's being a manager who says, we need to do this because I said so. the employee's not going to be very enthusiastic about doing it. But we need to do this, and here's why. I always tell my staff, and here's why we're doing this, or here's what we're trying to accomplish by doing this. And circle around one more thing. Eric, you said that what do we need to change about how we train? And I love that because I'm the pizza lunch guy. So maybe once a quarter or a couple of times a year, I bring in pizza for everybody, and we're sitting around having pizza, and I say, what's one thing that we could do that would make your job easier? And just go around the room. What's one thing that we could do to make your job easier? And a lot of times it's just the simplest thing that's a bottleneck somewhere in production, and you're not seeing it. And so anyway, I wanted to I could comment on each and everything that you guys said.
I would love to briefly expand because I love the pizza lunch. Honestly, the informal kind of question is really important. The other thing is, if you're somebody who's leading any kind of group, make sure you have an open door policy so somebody could privately talk to you, because sometimes there's friction between departments. I mean, because if the thing is, can you please make sales make sure they get the thread colors before they get to my place? And you can hear me editing out the cursing from the real world. Because usually what we have is like, my job would be great if I had the information I needed to do what I have to do. And I don't have to constantly chase someone else's part of their job. But that's why I kind of stress that whole full chain knowledge, that understanding that you're kind of making something in your section that you're delivering to somebody else, and that's your product. But at the same time, I think that's part of it. You have to have that open door, but sometimes it's okay for that stuff to get to the open. I know what I've heard some people, because I've had that same discussion where I tell them, hey, ask what they could change. Like, they're just going to say they want new machines. Like, maybe they will. Maybe they'll tell you they want new technology. Maybe they will. Maybe there's a good reason for that. The other thing to ask is why. What's the current equipment doing that doesn't hit the mark? And you might find out you got a repair problem. Or you have a training issue where they're saying it doesn't do something it does. I've had that a couple times. So he's like, I just want the software to do this. And I'm like, that's under this menu here. And I'm sorry, I didn't tell you how. Here's where it is.
Let me add to that. You also have to do something about it. You can't ask all those questions and then nothing ever happens.
Even if you can't do what they asked for specifically.
Exactly right. You still need to go back to them and say, hey, we've looked at this. Here's what we can implement of that, but here's why we can't do this or can't do that. But at least give a response that it just wasn't going on deaf ears when people were kind of laying their working soul out to you about what would make their job better.
All right.
Feedback, right? Feedback.
Yeah.
Huge. Absolutely. Okay. I have not done a good job of keeping us on target here, but I mean, not that you guys weren't talking about the stuff, but let's keep rolling here. Let's take a quick breather, and then we'll come back and kind of tie up with some ideas about the future. Maybe the regulators will bring us some thoughts about, what they just heard, what training looks like in their business, et cetera, et cetera. But let's hear from our good friends over at Promo Hunt. And if you have not signed up yet, it's free. So make it happen. But Eric, whenever you're ready.
If you sell decorated apparel, then you're constantly on supplier websites like Sanmar, Alpha Broder, and SNS Activewear, comparing prices and checking inventory. Stop wasting time comparing prices the hard way. Just install Promo Hunt's free browser extension. Then, when you're on a supplier website, Promo Hunt will automatically compare your prices with all your suppliers and will let you know if you can save. With Promo Hunt, you'll always be just one click away from seeing all your prices and inventory in one screen. Promo Hunt shows other helpful information too, like similar product ideas, supplier phone numbers, preferred pricing, and coupons on thousands of supplier websites. Promo Hunt saves you time and money, helping you quickly find and buy great products at competitive prices. The best part is that Promo Hunt is completely free. Join 7,000 decorators and distributors that use Promo Hunt every day to save time and money. Visit promohunt.com and sign up in less than 60 seconds.
All right. Well, one thing about that, I want to make sure you guys know if you're going up to sign up for Promo Hunt, mention the Two Real Guys podcast when you sign up. And that lets them know that you are listening in and that you heard about Promo Hunt here first. So get yourself over to promohunt.com/apparel to get that done. And we'll go ahead and make sure we get that link out for you.
Yep, absolutely. And as Eric said, just make sure you mention Two Regular Guys. We want them to understand where everything's coming from. So that's a quick and easy way, right in the form right there. You can just say, put Two Regular Guys, 2RG, whatever you want. And it's free. Did I mention that?
Yeah, I think you did mention it is free.
I just love every time I always think of him saying, and when my mother asks, why is it free? It's the best moment from that.
That was hilarious.
It was hilarious, Tony.
Super good
stuff. All right, guys, let's start heading down the back end of this education thing. Again, we're all three very passionate about this, so we could speak on this for forever and ever. But what do you guys think is next for education? Where do you see things going? Obviously we talked about how they might look in our particular shop, but what's going to change? So whose crystal ball is the clearest right now? Whoever wants to jump in there.
Well, let me jump in because Aaron, I texted you a couple of weeks ago and I didn't ask permission to give this company name out, so I won't. Okay. Because they may not want the world to know how they do their training. But somebody walked up to me at the DTF Expo and said, Terry, it's like I've got your voice in my head for the last week. And I'm like, well, why's that? And he goes, oh, well, at XYZ company, every employee goes through the DTF training that you and Aaron did for Printing United. And I'm like, really? And he goes, yeah, every one of us. And we go through and he goes, man, that was great information. And so I could certainly see more of that, especially with the training that Printing United does, because it's not just some random website or it's not just some random YouTuber that you could tell is working out of their basement offering you training. The folks at Printing United vet who does that training. And so I think that more companies will do that sort of thing. What was it, 7 or 8 sessions we did, Aaron? So over a week's time. And the person that told me this had actually been with XYZ company for a while. So they must have just added that as part of their training package. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting take. And can I add one more?
Yeah, sure. Please.
I think that I've heard that there's some companies that are going to start recognizing authorized trainers and not authorized in that company pays that person, but that they say this is quality training. And I think that we will probably see more companies do that sort of things. If they don't want to do the education themselves, that they will start recognizing people in the industry, which is something that we have talked on this show for 13 years about. Yeah. Basically, have somebody give the stamp of approval. Yes, this is good training.
Yeah. And that actually goes back to something that Erich had said in the first week we started talking about this, of like, I think our biggest challenge with education and training right now is the massive information. How do you know, right? Like I can I could basically spend 24/7 learning, taking in all this stuff, but how do I decipher and implement what's right for me? And how do I know, I'm new or I don't know this thing? Where do you, unfortunately, we're going to have to stub our toes a little bit to learn a little bit, but at the same time, if we can start kind of going, okay, how is this vetted? And like you said, that seal of approval. So love it. Erich, what about you? What's in the crystal ball?
I'd have to just kind of first just say I agree that we're going to see more and more vendors. We're seeing vendors promote their own academies now, building their own school systems. The one thing that's probably lacking, and I don't know when or if we'll be able to do this, is feedback. I think it's the section that we're missing, and we always have been missing, because now we have broadcasting down. We have setting someone up and giving them a list of things to watch or do down. I want to see where we finally get to the point of feedback. And it might be that we have somebody local in businesses who is essentially doing assessments of some kind. I think that's the last stage to making some of the more formalized training real, are assessments of skill. But at the same time, I don't know if that's something that's in the future. It's something I'd like to see, because right now I still think we're doing the kind of, like we talked about earlier, collections of content. Nothing wrong with that, especially with the kind of caveat that we were seeing people say, hey, we're going to judge those and make more of those so that they are recognized, and that people who know the difference will make a difference in that. Something else we kind of had on the list and never talked about was AI, because I know I get asked about that a lot. I'm still not a super big fan of a lot of AIs, but the thing that I know Aaron put in here has got to be Aaron through custom GPTs on here, custom language models.
You don't think Terry did that?
I think it's probably you. You like the
Right.
AI a little.
I do.
I mean, not a ton, but you love the AI a little bit.
What? I thought I was talking to AI right now. Okay, sorry.
No, this is me. This is still me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm certainly hoping to be an AI at some point. And in fact, to that end, I'm just going to very briefly mention a product I played with, because this is something I thought would be worthwhile to kind of think about. Okay. And I actually looked at Notebook LM. And so I'm going to share my screen briefly and just pull it up into the scene. You don't have to see much about it. But I'll go ahead and solo that so you can see it. This was in LM. So I just used Notebook LM, which is a Google product. So notebooklm.google.com. And I'll throw that link up here in a second. You can feed it a bunch of sources, and then you will have these individual notebooks. This is one notebook out of the many you could have. And I fed it the entirety of my materials for the Digitizing Your First Design class, and you can chat with it. Not only can you chat against it and ask it questions, it develops. And now, I mean, here's the risk for all of us. If you see up here, you see me kind of flashing my pointer over this. There is a fake podcast that it will pull together, and two hosts talk about the thing that you've uploaded into the sources. It's what I'm going to say is the podcast portion of it and some of the chat, it's not always 100%. It's not always perfect. But it is very interesting, and it produces, and I'll go ahead and maybe I'll pull this back up one more time again. It tries to generate study guides and notes for you as well. So for those of us making content or making training for ourselves, this might also be something you could use even as a business owner. Say, I already have, and I'll pop up the study guide and I'll go ahead and see what kind of stuff is on here. Because I just did this live. I did not generate the study guide ahead of the time, so I'll throw this on Spotlight. I can see that it's got quizzes for this. Define stitch density, explain how it explains the thread thickness. This thing is literally pulling out of my class and saying, here are the things you should probably know. And I'm looking at it and saying, that's pretty clearly stuff that you should know and key points. I feel slightly in danger. But at the same time, if I was trying to generate a study guide from my own content or maybe from my SOPs, I could provide this. We talked about different people and different learning styles. There is entire possibility that I could provide something like this with my SOPs, with my materials, and say, hey, while you're working, you're the kind of person that while you're pushing and pulling, you can listen to a podcast. Or we've got them doing some other task, we're on a slow time, we can obviously do that. So yeah, it's worthwhile.
So if we can go back on that, just
sure.
Really quick. I wanted to tell, you're giving away my secret weapon there, Notebook LM. I'm just kidding. Okay. I'd actually tell people about it all the time. I can add back
to the scene here.
Yeah. Sure. Because what it was made for was for students.
Yeah.
Take all their coursework and class stuff and put it in there, because they knew students were consuming in a different way. And so that's where the podcast thing comes from. So they can put their class work into it and then listen to it as a podcast, so they learn deeper, and the study guides and all that other stuff. But you're exactly right. It's such a cool tool to say, okay, let's take this in and you can add all sorts of stuff. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I actually posted as one of our kind of a bonus podcast episode, Notebook LM. I took my book, The Fundamentals of Business Success, loaded it in there, and did that and posted it. So I'm going to see if I can get the link here, and I will put that in the chat. If not that you need to go listen about the book, but just to kind of hear what it sounds like. I literally put the PDF of my book in there, hit the button for the podcast thing, downloaded it, added a little text on the front of it, uploaded it to YouTube, and as is, no editing, nothing. So you can kind of see the raw. And it's really good. Like you said, it's not always 100% on. It feels really weird listening to people talking about, and Montgomery said, and I was like, what?
Same thing here. I tested on my own materials first because don't get me wrong, I'm also thinking of it as a student. I come from, definitely from higher education, and learning how to do notes and studying was a big part of that, and how to kind of optimize that. I personally thought, I'm going to go find some other stuff that I'm trying to learn and do this with the materials, whether or not. And I'll say this too. If you guys got class materials from somebody like me, you could take that PDF over to Notebook LM and make your own little podcast if it works for you.
Yeah.
I'm certain I wouldn't know, but I also don't mind. I think a lot of people don't mind if you want to consume it in some different fashion.
Yeah.
It's just good, helpful tools.
I'm going to load Beer Bait and Barbecue and then listen to them explaining how vampires are real.
There we go. I love it.
Honestly, that'd probably be educational.
Okay. No. All right. So Doug here said, is a certification program something that would be of value? And Terry, you and I have talked about this pretty extensively. We do think it would be of value. I think the challenge is who's got because it's got to be a win-win, right? Like we would love it. We think it would be great, but from our own personal standpoint, like, I don't know, do you charge for that? But then when you start charging for it, now you start making it a pay to play thing. And that kind of takes away some of the validity to it in our minds. So I think it would be fantastic, but like who gets to make the choice, right? That's where you start getting into it. Right. And so Doug says, I come from an IT background and have several certifications, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
how do you determine who gets to say this is certified and this is not?
Yeah, who's the certifying body? That's always the issue to me.
Exactly right. Like a Printing United.
Yeah.
It'd have to be somebody. I mean, that would be quite an undertaking, but I think it would be hugely valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Okay, so let's start kind of last thoughts here, you guys. And again, regulators, we want to hear from you guys. What do you want to see in our industry education upcoming, right? Like what's missing? We've had 3 weeks to talk about this, and we want to hear from you guys what's missing. But any closing thoughts there, Terry?
I was kind of chuckling to myself when you were talking about using AI, because when you and I did that DTF class, 8-section class for Printing United, I said, man, it took me forever. It took me longer to do the quiz questions than it did to write the material. And you're like, oh yeah, I just used AI to do all my questions.
I did.
You did yours in about a minute. I did mine in about 3 hours.
Sorry, I should have just done them all, but it was pretty quick.
I know we're getting short on time, but have you guys seen on the news the guy that who's on trial for something, and the attorney's talking, and all of a sudden the judge goes, hold it. Is that attorney AI? It wasn't a real person. She was not happy.
I think turning it all over to AI, funny enough, as much as you talk about that, it was funny. I will say this. I don't think that we need to turn it all over to AI or to just throw an AI talking head model at someone with, a PDF behind it. I think that's not a great plan.
This has to watch the Terminator this weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, don't let Skynet do all of it. But I think that the thing is, I would love to see us all implementing the tools in a thoughtful way.
Yeah,
that still respects the craft that we do and our knowledge, but allows everybody to learn in a way that makes the most sense to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, you think about, like you were just sharing with the Notebook LM, and like you had to write the training to feed into it to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So it's garbage in, garbage out. That doesn't change. That will be constant. And I think that's what people are doing right now, though, with over reliance on AI. As you mentioned, I'm a huge fan of AI, but I never take it at just face value. Like, AI said so, therefore I'm going to copy and paste.
Using AI to simplify the way you take in the masses of information,
sure,
or to help you get bullet points, I think that's fine. I mean, getting an FAQ, getting a study guide. The AI is very good at crunching language and figuring out what's there. It's not very good at selecting whose language is the most viable to listen to. So I think when you're doing the custom stuff like Notebook LM, you at least have a chance to go, okay, here's a trusted source that's coming from somewhere I know that I trust.
Yep.
I'm going to use this to kind of chew this out and give me a study guide or some questions.
Absolutely.
And then maybe for those of us who are making this content, we can use it to help, like you said, navigate making our own questions and guides.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have we covered it?
I think so.
We have.
Okay.
Plus
all right.
Under the wire.
Cool.
Right.
You guys cool with going out of order with what's coming up here, Eric? Can I throw it to you first?
Absolutely. Provided I get to the notes quickly.
Button pushing.
I got it. Yeah, no, let's get it. Yeah, I'm going to do this afternoon the take up. I'm going to do a fairly short take up this week. A lot of people are off for, it's Good Friday and Easter coming up. So I'm going to actually do kind of a fun one, but it's something people request from me a lot is to watch one of my designs and see how it's put together. I talk about reviewing and analyzing designs a lot. So today, episode 221 will be a design replay review with Easter selections. Put that in quotes for you. It's a frequent user request for me to discuss how a design is put together. And I've got some Easter designs, a couple of those, and religious designs. I've got kind of some heraldry from some papal stuff. So big coats of arms that I did that are from the Vatican. And so these are things that are interesting. And we'll talk about how they're kind of put together, how they're constructed, some aesthetic choices, stuff like that, while you watch me replay the design digitally running so you can see how it's put together. So we'll do that as kind of a fun short review this afternoon. So 2:30 Mountain Time or 4:30 Eastern Time, which I'll have to get used to sometime soon. We'll be doing that, and you can go over to erichcampbell.com and hit the Take Up tab at the top to grab that link if you want to get through that and see my YouTube channel.
Awesome, love it. HQ139 says thanks for the resources. You're welcome. All right. So I'm going to jump in here real quick. Or no, you know what? Let's go to Terry. Terry, what do you got coming up so you can?
Well, part of my book, Beer, Bait, and Barbecue, takes place in the Vatican, just as an aside. My complete business course, I'm going to be in Chicago at Atlas Screen Supply on June 7th and 8th, and watch for my upcoming events at terrycombs.com.
Awesome. Yeah. There you go. Coming up soon. Couple quick things for me. I am going to be with over at American Print and Supply. We've got an open house coming up in Peoria, Illinois at their headquarters there. And it's happening on May 2nd. And so it'll be a fun open house to kind of get in, learn, understand a little bit more about American Print and Supply. Plus, we are going to release the Kraken. So there is a brand new piece of equipment that they're going to be unveiling for the first time on May 2nd that really feels like a game changer. So you can check that out. Just reach out to me or go over to the Facebook page for American Print and Supply, and you'll see the event there and just get registered. We can only handle about 50 people there just based on the size availability. And right now, when I looked this morning, we had 35 people signed up. So we feel like there's going to be a waiting list here. So make sure that you reach out to me. There you go. Thank you very much, Eric. You found that. I love it. Appreciate that. And then I'm going to skip over, but my next kind of live in-person actual class. So I get to be at DAX this year, and we're going to be doing some training in booth. But then the next place that I will be actually with the session is at Graphics Pro Expo in Indianapolis, Marketing Better in 2025. And that will be happening on June 13th. I want to share as many practical tips that I can to help you find clarity in your messaging, to be able to stand out in a noisy world, and to be able to connect authentically to your ideal, underline bold, ideal customers. And so if you'll go over to graphics-pro-expo.com, and you can actually use the code APAS25IN and get 50% off the registration. Also, just a note for folks, if you are planning to go to Indy, register before Monday. So they've got a small fee this year to attend. And right now, the small fee is $5.95. And with that 50% off code, you're obviously going to get 50% off that. But the prices go up to $9.95 on Monday. So if you're listening live, do that right now.
Awesome.
Okay.
I'm a little disappointed when you said you're going to release the Kraken because I was thinking rum, but go ahead.
Oh, I have some
don't
of
worry.
that.
That may or may not have come up, so there may or may not be some crack in there as well.
It did say cocktails, food, and celebration on the review. I'm just going to say.
Absolutely. We just haven't specified the rum yet, but now that you mention it, Terry, that'll be my
I know
next
those guys. It will be accepted gladly.
Yes, it will. All right, Terry, you got some secret sauce for us, sir?
I do.
All right, let's get it.
My secret sauce today is how to properly use a flash cure unit. Every screen printer who prints on color garments needs a flash cure unit by their press, but not everybody knows how exactly to use that flash unit. So the unit is commonly simply called a flash. It's basically a heating element on a stand, and it's used to gel an underbase print so the subsequent ink colors printed on top will be nice and bright. We print a white underbase, flash, and then we print the colors wet on wet. First, you can buy one of those bells and whistles machines, bells and whistles flash units that has, it moves on and off the platen by pressing a foot pedal, has temperature controls, has air blowers, so on. If you haven't bought a flash yet, go with the other end of the spectrum and get the one that has nothing but an on and off switch. That's all you need. The basic flash that with the on and off switch like that gets to about 500 degrees when you turn it on. Another error I see in many shops is the distance of the heating element from the shirt on the platen. If it's too far away, you'll add to the ink gel time substantially. Flash units are open on all four sides and the heat rises. So the further away you are, the more heat you're losing. So for best results, the heating element should be about 3/4 of an inch above the shirt platen. Flashing an underbase should take about 15 seconds. Touch the garment and see if any white ink comes off on your finger. Then if nothing comes off on your finger, then you know that you have a proper flash. Properly gelled ink should be dried to the touch, but not cured. Curing will occur after about 30 to 45 seconds under the heating element. If the underbase ink cures, the colors printed on top will disappear during the first wash. It'll just come right off. When the ink is gelled, it permanently bonds together with the colors on top in your conveyor dryer. So a flash cure unit is a necessary tool in a screen printing shop. Use it properly. And that's my secret sauce for today.
All right.
Brief and to the point.
Excellent secret sauce. Good stuff there. Thank you so much, Terry. All right, guys. Well, we are into bonus time. So let's wrap this thing up. Thank you both for the amazing 3 weeks of conversation on education. Hopefully, you guys, the regulators, got a lot out of that. You guys have been quiet. So either we did a really, really good job of explaining it, or we completely lost you. I'm hoping for the previous, not the latter. But, we definitely still want to hear from you guys, right? What's education look like? What's missing? Bring the comments. Reach out to us. info@tworegularguys.com, whatever that is. But great stuff. And Jeremy says, "Happy Friday from snowy Denver." Yes, we heard that.
That's what we heard, my friend.
All right. So great job, Eric, Terry, and thank you so much for being on the front side of the camera as well, Eric, and appreciate everything you do for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Always appreciate you coming on the show, and even more pushing all those buttons, turning all those wheels.
when I manage it, Yeah. When I manage it in time.
You're doing a great job. Next week, you guys, got a friend of mine coming to join us. His name's Jeff Bender. Actually, we've got a unique story. Jeff was my wine guy. We'll tell that story next week. But but he's started a clothing apparel brand that's called Line and Owl. You may have actually seen, he did a podcast recently with Cassie over at the Apparelist. So you can kind of maybe go learn a little bit about Jeff before, but we want to talk about tactile finishes. We're kind of in a space where There's a lot of neurodivergent understanding that we're gaining. And just think about the clothes that we wear. I mean, just think about yourself. Like, my hair is like this because when I get stressed, I do this, right? That tactile. So having the touch and feel on garments in different ways, right? Erich, I know you talk a lot about the depth with embroidery and things like that. So anyhow, I don't want to give it all away right now, but that's the conversation we're going to have with Jeff next week. And I'm really looking forward to that.
Me as well. That's going to be really interesting. But until then, I'm Terry Combs. He's Eric Campbell. He's Aaron Montgomery.
And that was the Two Regular Guys.
Here we go. We're out.
Awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Two Regular Guys. We're here because of listeners like you, and we're so grateful to have you on this journey with us. For more valuable insight, be sure to visit our website, 2regularguys.com, and join the conversation on our Facebook page. And hey, if you or someone you know has expertise, a unique perspective, or a story worth sharing, we'd love to have them as a guest on the show. Just reach out. Remember, success in this industry isn't just about the equipment you own or the techniques you've mastered. It's about the mindset you bring and the connections you build. Keep learning, stay curious, and don't be afraid to think differently. Keep pressing on, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Two Regular Guys.